Welcome to In the News with Double O Des. I'm Des Bernardo, giving you my perspective on news from South Africa and the rest of the world.
In the news now, there's an article in News 24 that refers to our President Cyril Ramaphosa and the fact that the trust in him is down by 10%. But then in the very next sentence it says that 63% of people say that there should be no booze sales during the lockdown period. Now things like that worry me extremely because on the one side the people are saying that they don't trust Cyril Ramaphosa as much anymore, but yet they want to try and implement all the things that the media is portraying coming from government side, and there's been lots of media saying that alcohol is causing many problems and therefore it should be banned during this time. Now once again, like I've said before, I believe in regulating things and that there should be a consensus with regards to regulation. I don't believe in banning anything because the moment you ban something that doesn't harm another person, then you have a serious problem. Because I could harm someone by putting them in the car, being a bad driver and getting into an accident. That's not being monitored every day. Driving a car is not banned. So where do you draw the line? You need to regulate how people drive. The same way you need to regulate how people that have drinking problems have access to alcohol. This is the proper way of dealing with things, not blanket bans. But let's get to the article. Trust in President Cyril Ramaphosa's leadership is declining, a survey among South Africans has shown. The survey also shows that many people are experiencing financial difficulties and food insecurity. Well, the government has caused exactly that. What were they expecting? Most respondents feel a ban on liquor and tobacco is justified. Now, this is utter propaganda. And the same propaganda they are using now to say President Cyril Ramaphosa that the trust in him is down by 10%, but the flip coin is that the tobacco ban and the alcohol ban, most people actually support this. Now let's see how many people were actually asked about this, if they would even reveal that. Trust in President Cyril Ramaphosa's leadership is declining, and few people agree that Ramaphosa is taking the lead in managing the COVID-19 pandemic. Now where do they get this information from? From the mainstream media, like sheep, literally. And this research was done by Ask Africa. Okay, so I haven't looked into Ask Africa, but I certainly will. There's many companies like this, but let's work with the figures that they have provided. Respondents' trust in Ramaphosa to lead the country has declined from 75% in week 4 of the national lockdown to 69% in week 9, while the confidence in his ability to take lead in managing the pandemic has declined from 75% in week 7 to 66% in week 9. While trust in the president remains high despite the decline, respondents indicate that awareness of COVID-19 related corruption is high. So I mean, the corruption that they've seen in the media everywhere is obviously bothering people. And more than 60% of respondents have heard, read or seen information about this corruption. Now if only 60% of respondents know about corruption, there's something wrong. The media is not doing its work. Because the corruption during this pandemic has been everywhere. From the police to the military, the SANDF, to every business that could actually get their hands on money, they have done so. And who have lost out? The people with jobs, the people with small businesses, they are the ones that lose out. Why is big business doing so well during a lockdown? They actually want people and the smaller businesses, the independent little businesses, they want them to suffer because they're competition for big business. Who can carry the load of being without income for 3 months? Not the small little independent business or the small scale business, the larger businesses. Why? Because they will just be extended more loans by the banks, because the banks look after their interests. Because they owe the banks a lot of money. the person that hasn't got loans at the bank is not going to get anything from them to help them. And this is a fact of our financial system. And this brings me to another topic, and I'll carry on with the article just now. With regards to the judgment in the tobacco ban case, when I did research, I found that the Tobacco Fair Trade Association has actually taken the government to court before, but they reached a settlement out of court the moment government allowed them to start exporting tobacco overseas, which means they were happy. I don't think they ever intended to help the many smokers present within this country. I think at this stage, the way things look, that this court case was just a little patch on top of a scratch, and to basically give people hope and make them feel happy. What happens to the big cigarette companies when there's a lockdown like this? They stay in business. What happens to the small cigarette companies during this time? They go out of business. And the longer this lockdown lasts and the tobacco ban lasts, the more of their competition will bite the dust. And I suspect that this is exactly what is happening behind the scenes, considering that they had already taken government to court before, and then they reached a settlement and the court case didn't continue. Are these same or similar discussions happening behind the scenes now? Is this just a patch? Are they actually negotiating out of court at this stage and trying to come to a negotiated agreement that could perhaps go and implement all the World Health Organization recommendations with regards to tobacco? I will, in a video later this evening, discuss with you in detail what regulations the World Health Organization wants all countries around the world to implement with regards to tobacco. Once again, this is all part of a new world order ideology. And if you don't understand this, you will not understand the big picture unfolding in front of you. I feel sorry for the many friends that I know that are suffering medically at this stage because of severe withdrawal symptoms with no help in sight. I'm not a proponent of smoking or drinking alcohol. I've never smoked in my life. I've never had alcohol in my life. But I do believe if someone wants to stop, that they should do it on their own, not because a government forces them to do so. This is taking your freedom to choose how you want to treat your body away. To continue with the article, trust in the South African Police Service and the South African National Defence Force is at its lowest since the lockdown. Remember, initially people were laughing in the informal settlements where SANDF soldiers were forcing people to do push-ups. Well, I wasn't laughing at that stage because I knew what was coming. Things would always get out of hand. Ask Africa has been conducting weekly research since the beginning of the coronavirus lockdown on 26th of March. The main aim of the research is to understand the socio-economic impact the coronavirus lockdown and the gradual reopening of the economy has on South Africans. Now we know this gradual reopening is quite an interesting factor in our lives right now. With these COVID passes being shipped around the world, we know that everyone can't get these passes, but they said through these passes it'll become possible to gradually ease the lockdown. Does this mean that they're going to wait for every one of us to get this pass before they will lift the lockdown fully? Well, the evidence suggests yes. And they have said, if you look at my previous article and story on this, that these COVID passes must be given to 100% of people for the system to work. No one will be left out. Think about that. In these results obtained between 26th of May and 1st of June, quantitative research was done using a 10-minute questionnaire administered in English. There's your first problem. Many people won't understand. A total of 467 interviews were conducted and the quota structure aligned with the proportions of the general South African population. Now I can believe that. And 4,067 people is a very good grab sample. Normally, out of 3,000 people, you'll get a very accurate representation of how the population feels. Now, what this means is that the mainstream media machine is extremely effective because they are driving the anti-tobacco and the anti-alcohol idea. And it's working because the majority of people in the country don't smoke. How long before they start to turn against smokers? I believe that there's going to be an extended campaign against smokers in particular. Once again, to divide us, divide and conquer makes us weaker. People see the big picture. Once again, I'm not a smoker, but I see the big picture, and they won't be fooling me. Of the respondents, 72% were black, 14% white, 9% colored, and 5% Indian or Asian. Women made up 55% of respondents and men 45%. The largest represented age group was 25 to 34, and the second largest 35 to 49. Now this is a big problem because here they are looking at the younger people, which means that they are targeting the younger generation with the New World Order ideology, because this will give you a very skewed representation of what is actually going on. I am 48 years old now. The high end of this is 49 years old, which means there's only 2 to 3 years of people in this time frame that actually went to the military, men, which is a completely different generation altogether. So you can say that most of the people that they interviewed here are of the younger generation or the post-democracy generation, and they have been fully indoctrinated with New World Order ideology. And it's fine for a person to be indoctrinated if you know all sides of the coin. If you know the front, back and the side, and then you decide to be indoctrinated any given way, that's your decision to make. But I want to tell the other side of the coin, the edge, the inside of the coin, and what it's made of. Financial well-being. The survey found that 42% of people are temporarily not working owing to the lockdown. That's 42%. That's almost half of the people not working. 31% continue to work from home. 11% were still going to work using personal protective equipment and safety measures. 10% were going to work as essential workers. 5% have stated that their employers had permanently closed down, while 1% stated they still went to work but without protective measures. So 5% of businesses closing down, that is a massive, massive percentage. I mean, how that will still affect taxes and many other things will still be seen in time to come. 1 in 3 respondents noted that they or someone in their organization received a temporary salary reduction during the lockdown. Now, I know that people have been receiving salary reductions before coronavirus even became a thing in South Africa. So this is something that is quite severe. Our economy was already in the doldrums. Now, emotional well-being, and this is something I'm very concerned about, especially with regards to smokers and people that are dependent on alcohol. Now, people that battle with alcohol can be helped. There are programs to help them, and that is what should happen. You shouldn't ban alcohol completely. Emotional well-being of many people that smoke has been a severe problem. Many have committed suicide, and I know of personal cases where my friends have told me that friends or family have actually committed suicide, and this should be considered, especially by the court, that will hopefully still give judgment this afternoon. After initially showing high levels of fear, respondents have for the past month plateaued on an emotion of managing and depression. During week 1 of the lockdown, 52% of respondents indicated they were managing. That has gone down to 23% in 9 weeks. Only 23% saying that they're managing. 62% of respondents believe that domestic and gender-based violence will increase during the lockdown. We know that has already happened, okay? This fear is significantly higher among those in the Western Cape, 74%, Gauteng 69%, and Free State 65%. Further to this, 1 in 3 people feel that the government is not doing enough to support victims of these crimes during the lockdown. Well, it's not the government's job to do anything for people behaving violently in communities. This is where we make a big mistake, is depending on government. We need to become independent of government. The stress about the virus itself is the highest in the northwest and Mpumalanga, similar to the previous week. The stress is not directly linked to the number of cases per province, which means it is media driven. It has nothing to do with family or friends actually having the disease. They just fear it, and the fear is real. A third of respondents predicted 26 to 50% of South Africans may contract the virus. I have news for you. All of us are going to contract the virus. All of us. Like you contract the flu. Most respondents further predicted less than 1 in 4 people who contract the virus may die from it. 1 in 4. Are you mad? The figures worldwide does not indicate that. People, if anyone thinks that 1 in 4 people will die from the virus, I will do another video on the statistics so the fear-mongering can go away. Okay, please. I mean, this is ridiculous. Most people understand the reason for the lockdown, yet many believe that the gradual reopening of the economy will not save lives, especially those residing in Mpumalanga. Overall, 41% are hesitant about returning to work. So these are the people actually fearing that this virus is going to kill them. Well, mainstream media, you have done your job well. You have created tremendous fear in people. Instead of teaching people how to just be hygienic in general, your whole life through, not just during this lockdown, will help a lot to spread all sorts of diseases. And I will do another article with you where William Kiesev said that TB is killing more people and cancer is killing more people during this time. That we can't take our eye off the ball there. How about focusing on that? Food security. We'll all die if we can't eat. Food security is low in South Africa, with 1 in 4 adults already having lost weight because of food shortages. Well, this has been helpful to me. I've lost 8 kilograms, but that was deliberate. Over the past 3 weeks, food insecurity has remained high, although slightly fewer people went to bed hungry due to a lack of food in the home. Nearly 60% of people remain concerned about the amount of food in their homes. Now, to worry about food becomes a mental issue. I mean, the stress that can create in people can be immense if they don't see the big picture. So hopefully my channel will help. And please, I ask you, if you're watching this, subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon so you can get notifications on new videos, so I can put perspective on all that the mainstream media is putting out into your face. Many respondents believe that the most vulnerable people in the communities are not receiving food parcels, with only 19% completely agreeing that parcels are distributed. Well, 19%, those are people that would have seen food parcels being distributed, so they would actually believe it's happening. Then I'm going to scroll through quite a bit of this. Like I said, the link will be in the description beneath the video, so you can go and read the rest of this. But I want to get to the alcohol and tobacco and general trade bans. Nearly 70% of the respondents in townships and informal settlements agree that the ban on the sale of alcohol and tobacco are important. These are in informal settlements. So obviously, alcohol causes a huge problem in the informal settlements, and it looks like a majority of people feel that it's a good thing to ban it. Well, maybe they should regulate it then in those communities. Not ban it, regulate. 2 in 3 people agree that the ban on the sale of tobacco makes sense. That's 2 in 3. That's 66%. Yet the limitation on the type of clothing items seem to make less sense to consumers. Goodness gracious. Clothing items, people. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, we must be the laughing stock of the world. A further 58% feel that not being allowed to go to the hairdresser makes sense. Okay, this is 58%. It's almost 60%. I can't believe this. They don't specify where they got most of this info from, as this will prevent the spread of the virus. 44% of respondents noted that the limitation on the type of clothing items on sale makes no sense. The majority of respondents, 77%, are more concerned about contracting the virus than losing their constitutional rights owing to the lockdown regulations. And this needs to be the focal point of this article. 77% of people are willing to just hand over their rights. don't care about their constitutional rights because they fear the virus. Thanks again, mainstream media. Well, this little media will try and change your mind with regards to that. And you don't have to be dangerous or try and kill yourself. But good grief, who has ever told you that you're not going to contract the virus? Who has told you that? Because they're lying. If that virus is moving around as they say it is, everyone probably has it already. This sentiment is higher among those in townships and informal settlements than those in metropolitan areas or suburbs. I would love to go into the informal settlements and find out how they've been indoctrinated and been fearmongered with regards to this virus. I would really like to know. Media usage and shopping. Look at the types of things that they're monitoring. I'm sure these people are funded by someone in the Rothschild family or related to them at least. Television and social media remain important sources of information for most people who continue using these platforms during the lockdown at least once a day. Social media and TV are important sources of information for promotions on grocery products. Personal care and clothing items also for most of the respondents. Brands building a good reputation during the lockdown are visibly contributing to charitable acts or humanitarian causes. You will only know that when it's all over the mainstream media. It's all planned. Put measures in place to stop the spread of the virus and update the public on the pandemic. So they want companies, they are promoting companies now that are spreading their fear. So the moment you actually start spreading fear with regards to the virus, then you will get assisted. And like I said, I believe this virus is real. I believe it's everywhere. I don't believe it's as deadly based on the evidence that's been provided to us. Education. I don't want to get into the education now in detail, but nearly 50% of the respondents believe that the spread of the virus can be prevented by allowing selected grades to go back to school. But 66% of parents and pupils believe that the school year should be repeated in 2021. Now that's a vast majority, and it's quite a movement of parents that once again is fear-based. But now when it comes to a school situation, one has to use some common sense, because schools are germ-generating infestation house. I mean, my kids get sick at school quite often. Luckily, because the immune systems are quite healthy, they get over it fast. But in schools, people get sick continuously. So if you don't want the virus to spread, to put people on top of each other in school and put them on top of queues, but then you prevent people from exercising in fresh air, makes absolutely no sense. It's not common sense at all. Restricting people from 6 till 9 for exercise makes no common sense at all. We saw people walking on top of each other. Makes no sense. The cigarette tobacco ban, court case hearing outcome, we will hopefully hear about soon. If we don't hear about it today, before 6 o'clock, I will do a story tonight specifically on that and my thoughts and feelings. I've shared some of those with you. I will go to the articles that actually cover that. Like I said, this article I will put in the description below this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not yet. Click the bell icon to receive notifications. Please go and watch the videos in my other playlists, the Question Everything series and the 00 Days series. Please subscribe and share with your friends as much as you can. We need more people to fight the fight for the people on the ground, and I want you to support other channels that's doing exactly the same thing. Till the next video.